Hello, welcome to the Design-Based Learning Podcast.
I'm Mike.
I'm Henry.
And it's episode 9.
Number 9 today.
Special episode.
Special episode because it is Christmas time. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope you have a good Christmas. And sorry, but we're having coffee this morning, and before we have a good Christmas, the usual thing happens. This guy comes and says,
every Friday.
What's the problem now?
Yeah, again, going into a school, and I was just chatting with teachers and asking about like how are you doing and stuff like that, just following up on what we did to the teachers. And the teacher came up to me and she was like a bit worried, and I was like, what's going on? She was like, Henry, I'm a bit worried that students might be treating every design-based learning project the same every single time.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's a tough one.
How did she describe it? What was she saying?
So she's thinking like students might be thinking about they just build the same cardboard every time. They would do the same sort of presentation. They use Post-its. Like everything seems like very, very like similar. Okay. And the process they go through is very similar. So how do you make students excited about every single project?
All right. And so why do you think the students are treating the project the same? Did you ask her that?
So she said something maybe like kids just want to get it done.
Okay.
So
it's like another homework.
It's a bit like other homework,
it's another piece of homework that just needs to get done, tick the box, finish, get it done.
Yeah, and then they're kind of rushing it to get it done, like doing the bare minimal to achieve the project outcome, basically.
So even though it's like a design-based project, they're thinking, okay, it's just homework. They're not getting into the process of how to really understand the purpose of the project.
So have you got any tips for...
Any tips?
Any tips, like any insights you got this time?
Any tips? I think the key is you have to make it a challenge. And
get personal.
And you have to get personal. Yeah, you need to get personal. But not that kind of personal. It just means you have to have a personal goal.
Yeah, because...
So the student needs to set their own goals personally for what they want to do.
Because otherwise, it will just be the same sort of project in there. When students don't have that emotional connection with the project, it just seems like teacher asked me to do it, I do it, that sort of thing. But they don't know why they're in it and what they want to achieve personally.
Correct.
So that's why we need to help students to set personal goals in there. So this podcast will help teachers, all right, to understand how to turn these kind of mundane, day-to-day sort of projects into sort of a challenge where students feel like excited to achieve
and the students
tackle.
Have a personal goal for each one.
Exactly.
And what's more important is what? First, the mission statement.
Yeah,
right?
so in your first lesson, right, this is the most important lesson actually in your entire project series, because it is the time when students can build that emotional connection with the project they're doing. So that the first thing you need to do to make students on board, we call it kickoff, to get on board with the mission statement. So the main driving question to drive your project, make sure every student understand the mission that we're trying to do.
What's the mission?
Yeah.
What's the goal?
Yeah.
Right? The learning goals are clear.
The learning goals are clear. Make sure kids understand that. Yeah.
Yes.
So these are teacher set goals, all right? And kids will need to understand that first. And afterwards...
Then they can set their personal goal.
Exactly, yeah.
It sounds really easy, right? Set your personal goal.
It's super hard, to be fair, because in your first lesson, you've got loads of activities you want to do with kids, right? You might not have time to do some personal goal in your first lesson, but it's super important, all right, just to spare that 5 minutes, all right, just to give students time to set personal goals.
So what kind of personal goals do we set?
Simply just give them Post-its, all right, and just write down something they want to achieve after this project or during this project.
Okay,
and
but there's so many things they can write down. How would you specify?
As usual, the 3 things we always look at.
Okay, which is?
Attitude, skills, and knowledge.
Okay,
all right.
So what's an attitude goal?
So attitude goal could be something like, during this project, for example, you just ask students to write down on their Post-its. So what do you want to achieve personally this time? And maybe students can write something about the attitude. Maybe I want to listen more to my teammate this time. Last time I didn't really listen to my teammates, but this time I want to work on that. And second one, maybe more positive. When a team is a bit like down, I can be that motivated to push the team to get to the goal together. So I want to be more positive and lead the team to the destination they want to get to.
So they can also be more exciting or more
motivated. Yeah, so that kind of attitude, you can help students to do that too, all right? And in terms of skills, what kind of skills can students kind of like set in that?
Well, depends what skill they're working on. For example, if they're struggling with research skills, specifically that they don't know how to use Google as a tool properly, so that they learn the skills to find the information they need to accomplish the project, or they want to improve their teamwork skills on how they organize their own work, so to chart their work, to set deadlines, to set,
Communication between teams as well, or working with other teams, like peer learning too. These are the skills that students can reflect on and set goals about it too.
Or presentation, that they want their presentation skills to be clear, that they get to the point and they explain the point of their project.
Or maybe just use a storytelling or role play
exactly.
in the presentation. So something personally students want to achieve in that sort of skills.
To use a proper story, to have the proper elements of the story, from the problem, the crisis, to the resolution.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So lastly is the knowledge. So students can also set goals in terms of the knowledge of the project. So for example, if the project is about drugs education, so what kind of knowledge would students want to achieve in there too? So maybe I want to learn about different uses of drugs, how drugs could be bad for our body, for example.
The most popular drugs that are used in Hong Kong, for example. So they have to do research. So it's a combination of the skills of how to research this and the knowledge itself.
Yeah, so basically when students set these personal goals in there, every student will have something they want to achieve in there.
Okay.
And that's why when you kind of build that emotional connection with the project, there's something they want to achieve. They wouldn't treat the project the same every single time.
So that's a lot of work if you have 40 students. So any tips or advice for teachers? Okay, they have 40 students and they're doing individual personal goals with each one of them.
So basically in the classroom, you can spare a space where you put personal goal on it. So maybe a flip chart, or there's just a what's it called, the thing in the back, the classroom boards?
The notice board.
The notice board, yeah. You can put like a personal goal in this project. So just to stick everyone's idea on that board.
Okay.
So visualize it. So make sure everyone knows about what people's goals are. And because when people know your goal, I would want to help you to achieve the goal that you want to achieve too. So you're setting up the peers, sort of like supporting each other when you do that.
It's better to have it on a public area where everyone can see it, rather than you treat it like a homework where I have to turn it in and then I have to mark it like. Right?
And then during recess time as well, you can ask your mate to come up like, this is my personal goal of this project. I want to work on this personal skill. Can you help me to achieve that?
And if a teacher needs to adjust, he or she can comment on the goal since it's written on the notice board.
Exactly, yeah. And also, when the project finishes, most importantly, is to get students to go back to that notice board and pick the post-it they wrote, and then help them to reflect at that time. So maybe they wrote down something, I want to improve on my presentation skills this time, so that they come back with a new post-it, and then they just write down, okay, what made me successful this time? Or if they didn't achieve it, why did they not achieve it, and how do you achieve it next time?
Okay.
So just by doing that, students can measure their own success, basically, and you're giving this responsibility for students to achieve the goal they want to achieve in there too.
Fantastic. So how would they, and how will the learning be measured afterwards? So if I'm achieving a personal goal, how do I know that I've achieved my personal goal?
Simply just ask them, can you provide sort of any evidence or tell me a story on how you achieved this kind of goal? And then you can just write it on the post-its, and as teachers you can collect these post-its back and you can see whether students have achieved their goals or not.
Okay, so it's more of really a personal goal, and then when they present, it's more about the process rather than a mark or a grade that they get at the end.
Yeah, because it's personal discovery journey, isn't it? So you can't really put a grade on it. It's like you've done it or not. And it's more importantly, how can we help kids to achieve the goal they want to achieve? And that's more important than putting grades on top of it,
Just so that the kids themselves will be the ones to decide whether or not they've achieved the goal.
So this is also the last lesson of DBL, that after you present your idea, remember to spare some time for students to reflect for the entire project series. All right, that's the time when you do that.
After each lesson and after the entire project.
Exactly, yeah. Just make a time for them to reflect whether they achieve their personal goals or not.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to help kids to feel like this project is not going to be the same anymore, and there's always some sort of new challenges in there they want to work on together. All right.
Fantastic.
So that's it for our episode 9.
Episode 9, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Cheers, everyone. It's not mulled wine, but it's coffee.
Just coffee.
All right. So, see you in our next episode.
Yes.
It's going to be an exciting one next time. Okay?
Right.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.